in the screen like this.
Good evening. My name is Amy Wiltsey, Finance Committee Chair, and I am calling this meeting to order on Monday, August 22nd, 2022. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we do have quorum. Our first item for action this evening is acceptance of minutes from June 27th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll do a roll call vote if you all don't mind. Ms. Lance?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Corcoran?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Green?
Yes.
Ms. Cupie?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Kennedy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Mangini, for budget transfers, we have none. So we are right on to financial reports, please.
Okay, welcome back everyone. It's great to see you all. I hope everyone had a wonderful summer. We do have for you this evening the July report, which obviously isn't giving you a whole lot of information yet. As you may recall from last year, we don't actually encumber all the payroll until sometime later in September, because we do have a lot of movement once again this year, so we have a lot of changes. We want to get everybody in place and settled, and then you will start to see that balance be reduced and the encumbrance amounts increase. The only thing I wanted to really bring to your attention right now that will impact our budget as we move along is that we did have to lock into some prices for gasoline back in July, and we did work cooperatively with the town. Unfortunately, the price that we had to accept was a lot higher than we had budgeted for. We are only locked in until October, and we did that intentionally, so we will be going out to bid again with the town, and hopefully the price will be significantly less. As we can see at the pumps, the prices are beginning to come down. But I do want you just to be aware that if we don't get a considerably less amount per gallon, we could be $250,000 in deficit for gasoline. So obviously we're watching that very carefully. And again, we're going to be carefully analyzing all our payroll, so there is always a possibility that there's some savings there. As you may have seen, based on the personnel report, many of the positions that are vacant right now are difficult to fill, and they are at competitive salaries. So we're not really sure what that's going to look like when all is said and done and all the positions are filled. But we'll keep you updated on that. I also just wanted to briefly mention fiscal year 22, as my report to you did indicate. We are working on the EFS report, which is the Educational Financial System report through the state of Connecticut. It is due by September 1st, so we're working through a lot of adjusting entries with the town. We do reconcile monthly. The town doesn't always make all of those adjusting entries monthly, so we are kind of trying to make certain we're all on the same page, because the auditors are now requesting information as well. So in September, we anticipate being able to give you a good report for fiscal year 22, along with all the transfer adjustments that we owe you as well. I will tell you though, we do anticipate ending the year in the black, and the savings that we recognize were in all the areas that we reported throughout the year: salaries, benefits, and some from the spending freeze in the supply, textbook, and workbook accounts. So nothing has really changed, but once all is said and done, we'll be able to provide you with that report. And I think that's all I had at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Grants update, Dr. Fleming? Oh, I'm so sorry. Ms. Cupie has a question for you.
So, Ms. Mangini, I believe I saw a request before we went on break go over to the town about the Education Reserve Fund. Am I mistaken?
You are
or
not.
last year.
Yes.
Do you have an update on that?
We never received a response.
Okay. And your request was basically formally, like putting it in writing to say we would like the remaining funds put into that account, right? Per
Correct.
the ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay, so, okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Mangini?
Mangini, you mentioned the gas, that's obviously travel expenses, under travel expenses, yes? Or
No, it's
was that
actually,
gas for heating gas too?
it's just gasoline for our school buses.
Okay.
And it's under, I think it's kind of a unique name, it's called, fuel absorption, I think.
Okay,
But I can get you the exact account code.
that's fine, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, Dr. Covey, grants report, thank you.
Good evening. It's the beginning of the year. You have the grant report. It's a little sparse compared to what you're used to seeing because as the veterans are more aware, we only put things in this report once the state has approved them. So we may have other things in motion. We may have some idea what some numbers are going to be, but we don't put them in writing until the state has actually approved them. And just a little FYI, in case you don't know it, it's not as if the state just says, yes, you're approved. Even at the state, that's a 5-step process before we actually can call it fiscally approved and put it in here. Most of what you see in front of you, therefore, is carryover from last year, so there shouldn't be any surprises. We'll add more of these as they get finalized and as the grants are approved on a monthly basis. I wanted you to be aware we're working, we have 2 new ones here on the report. One is one we discussed briefly last year, which is called ARP After School. It's about 2/3 of the way down your list. It's $450,654, and that's an expansion to our 21st Century After School program. It lets us do 2 things. It lets us we ran a program this summer. We can run a 21st Century program next summer, and it allows us to add students with exceptionalities to both the summer and the school year programs and staff appropriate to those students. The other one that's new is the special education stipends. It's $15,000 total. It's actually 2 small grants. One is $10,000, which we're using to pay for the evaluation of students as they enter the district. And the other one is $5,000 for our para-educators who are in the special education program to receive a little bit of professional development. Okay. In progress, well, Pam mentioned the EFS. My time right now is mostly going to the expenditure reports for the grants that feed into the EFS. In fact, I spent all day staring at spreadsheets, so that's what today was. But we do have 2 new grants in progress. One is the renewal of the Family Resource Center. That's due on August 31st, so we're working on that one. And the second one is the Alliance application. I'm working with Dr. Gata as she and her team plan that application out, and we'll start putting it online. That's due on September 9th. That's where we are right now. It's the start of the year, and things will start snowballing, but as of July 31st, that's where we are. So any questions?
I have a quick question regarding the school violence prevention program.
Yes.
Is that, in the narrative here, the U.S. Department of Justice COPS program that requires a 25% match?
Correct.
Okay, when does that expire? When do we?
So that expires in September of 2023, but we're not going to have it take that long. In fact, last Thursday, the contractors began installing the equipment that grant is paying for.
Fantastic, and we're okay matching?
The town is matching it, correct.
Okay. And is that total 172,048?
172,048 is the grant amount, and then the
On top.
match is on top of that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Fleming?
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Borges, for special ed PPS report, please.
No written out report for you guys because we just finished ESY, which was successful, 400 plus students, and Dr. Gata has that information to share with you. It was a good ESY time. You're not gonna get any of my pretty graphs for at least 3 to 5 weeks because we moved to CT SEDS, which is a brand new state system that we're excited for that should help us a lot, but there's some glitches and bugs in it right now, so you can't really run reports that we need to run. But I will get them to you as we figure those out. So, and there's a lot of enrollment and exiting, so the numbers wouldn't be accurate for you right now anyway, but you'll have those at the next meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Borges? Okay, well, thank you very much. Ms. Mangini, back to you for the food services report, please.
Yes, we provided you with the report for both the months of May and June. And as noted, these are presented on a cash basis, so there's always adjustments that really have to be made. They are unaudited, but you will see that we are really projecting an excellent end to this year, probably around $1.4 to $1.5 million at the end of the year. That's probably the first time in a decade that we have had that, and it's a combination of reasons. I think we've really improved our partnership with Sodexo. We are having much more frequent meetings. We took a closer look at our staffing and our labor costs, and we have actually met with the high school principals in particular to kind of tweak those labor hours a little bit, and they were on board with it, so we're going to see how it goes this year. I think we'll be fine. And we've also taken a closer look at some of the offerings that obviously we're hoping will be a little bit more exciting this year. I know I had a meeting with Karen Rosa last week, and she's very excited about what's being offered. A little bit more ethnic foods, I believe, to represent our student population, and our consultant will be joining me to go school to school this year. So I really hope to be a lot more visible and on top of the program. But the best news for me is that we do have a healthy balance to start the year, and part of that is due to our additional reimbursement rates from the federal government, which actually will not be quite as generous as we go into the new year, but I think we're going to be okay. So I will keep you posted on all of that.
I have a quick question for you, Ms. Mangini.
Sure.
With regard to families filling out the applications for free and reduced lunch, a ballpark figure, what would you say percentage of families that do it now by paper?
I honestly can't give that to you because it's been COVID and it's been free lunch since I've arrived here.
Sure.
So we really have had very, very low numbers of families submitting them, even though they were still important. We have talked through cabinet and with Dr. Sunday. We've done two immediate steps that we've taken. One is that we have signed on with My School Bucks app that actually has an online free and reduced application that can be completely filled out online. And Dr. Sunday suggested that we have it as a pop-up when someone goes onto our website, as well as maybe do a monthly blast to remind families. So we don't actually have, we don't actually have the software operating yet because every district is trying to do the same, but My School Bucks has promised us more or less by mid next week. So we're hoping to really try to promote it a lot more. We've had conversations with principals, and our family outreach program is aware as well to really try to push that home. Because while we get a direct certification notification of families perhaps who get SNAP or are entitled to Husky, so they're automatically free lunch, there are so many families that probably don't even realize that they actually are entitled to it. And maybe not free, but at least at the reduced level, because the income eligibility amounts have changed this year as well. So it's really important that we get the word out. So thank you for mentioning it.
Thank you for explaining it. I really wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the ease of it for this year. Are there any other questions regarding the food services report from Mrs. Mangini?
Yeah, I think at the last meeting, Pam, you brought up a program that you're looking into to offer free lunch across, the entire district. So I just think maybe if you could just give a quick update
Sure.
on that, like on the mic, for somebody who's not this.
It's also going to be part of my report to the full board later, but that's fine. I think it's worth repeating. But the board has, the state has used some of their American Rescue Plan funding to assist school districts with some funding to provide free meals to our students for a limited period of time. The Stratford Public Schools have received about $536,000 as an allocation. I worked with Sodexo and we did the math. There's a lot of variables that could affect how this plays out and how long it will last, but we are currently estimating that we can provide free meals to all of our students through December. And we will keep monitoring that each month. And the more free and reduced applications that are approved, we may receive more they're called SMART funds. We may receive additional funding, which will allow us to provide free meals for even a longer period of time. And I will also just comment that there are 6 of our elementary schools that will continue on the community eligibility provision program, and those 6 schools will be getting free meals for the entire year, and that was based on a calculation that had to be approved by the school, and that was in place before the pandemic, so we are just going to continue that. So we're trying to take advantage of everything possible out there to assist our families, and as we move through the year, I think it will give families some time to perhaps be ready to start paying for lunches again.
But, so this hasn't been finalized yet?
It has,
It has been,
Yes.
so starting first day of school across the district?
correct, starting the
Will you
first day of
send something
school.
out, or how
Does
does
this
that work?
include, sorry, my ears being
Mhm.
funky right now, does this include, secondary schools
Yeah.
as well?
It includes all of our schools, and all of this information was shared with building principals to disseminate the information, and it's probably not a bad idea for us to do a district blast as
Because I've
well.
had a few parents ask recently, and so I was just wondering if we could send something out.
Be happy to.
Yeah, okay.
And that's through December, and then
Oh,
hopefully, and then moving on after that.
Mhm.
More than likely,
Well-
we will have to return to paid lunches if we do not have people on free or reduced lunch, unless there's something that's provided additional.
Okay, that would be great, thanks.
Mrs. Lyons?
Can we know, do we know, could I know who those 6 schools are?
Oh, yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry. No, you can't.
That's all right.
Let me just grab my report here.
It's
I know.
Franklin, Lordship,
Johnson, Nichols, Soto, and Second Hill.
Franklin, Lordship, Johnson, Nichols, Soto, and Second Hill Lane.
So none of the secondary schools?
No, it was always just those 6 elementary schools, and they do get free breakfast and lunch. It's a very important question, thank you.
Thank you.
And those continue after December regardless.
Correct, that will be the entire year, and as long as we continue with the CEP program. If you recall, we were concerned because it was costing the district money. I don't know if it's good or bad, but unfortunately, those free and reduced numbers have increased. And as a result, we have found through our estimates and calculations, it should be a break-even program at this point.
Mrs. Lyons?
So now that preschool has moved to Soto, they'll be getting breakfast too, or lunch too when they go?
Breakfast and lunch.
Thank you.
Correct, that falls under the program as well.
Are there any other questions regarding the food services report from Mrs. Nugent? Okay, thank you very much. Enrollment and registration status?
Enrollment, okay. Obviously, the official enrollment is reported on October 1st as the state requires it. We are continuing to monitor new registrations. We have quite a few still in the queue that are pending registration, residency verification, as well as student information such as birth certificates. Our staff is really very aggressive in reaching out to families to try to move them through. It is late, but we continue to get new registrations. I think at this point, enrollment appears to be with those in the queue close to what we had in June. Obviously, we had a larger class move as seniors out, and depending upon the number of kindergarten students that we end up getting currently, we're probably about 100 less than last year, but again, we have so many pending that I think we're gonna be pretty close to where we were last year. So we'll continue to monitor it and continue to report it, but we are aggressively working through it, and we do have a new person in the position doing registration. She's doing a great job already, and we're fortunate enough that Raylene, who was here doing the work, is still here in HR, and she's helping as well. So we're getting through it very nicely.
Any questions regarding?
Ms. Magini, remind me, I recall at one of our meetings, you had mentioned that in the past, we were reporting our special ed students as like 1.5 or something to that effect. Were we reporting it that way in the enrollment reports, or were the enrollment reports pure numbers? And if so, where were we reporting it as 1.5?
The enrollment reports were pure numbers.
They were pure numbers.
1.5 was a factor that came out of the teacher's contract, and it was calculated when we were determining the maximum class size that teachers could have with special ed students counting as 1.5. But when we renegotiated the contract that began July 1st, that is no longer either. So we didn't get rid of that because quite frankly, it confused me tremendously when I first arrived here because I was not familiar with that concept. So I'm glad that we were able to eliminate it.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions regarding enrollment and registration for Ms. Mangini? Okay, thank you very much. Any old business, new business? The only thing I would announce, we have here is September 26th is Rosh Hashanah, so our next Finance Committee meeting has been rescheduled to September 19th at 6:30. So please take note of that. And if there are no other questions or items, we can adjourn. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Thank you so much. We are adjourned at 6:50.